Hello friends. I can see 80% of my viewers don't subscribe while watching videos. Please hit the subscribe button and like this video. Press that bell icon for notifications. And tell me in the comments from which city you are watching this video. My name is Nora Ellison, and this is the story of how my family's cruelest betrayal became my greatest victory. The memory still burns in my chest like molten steel. I was 22 years old, sitting at that familiar dinner table where I had celebrated countless birthdays and holidays. The same table where I once believed I was loved unconditionally. But that night everything changed. My Uncle Marcus leaned across his wine glass, his eyes gleaming with the kind of malicious satisfaction that only comes from crushing someone's spirit. His words sliced through the air like a blade. "Nora, women like you do not make it alone. You will need a man to support you." The room erupted in laughter. My cousins Rebecca and James smirked at each other as if they were sharing some private joke at my expense. My Aunt Patricia nodded in agreement, her perfectly manicured fingers drumming against the table. Even my own mother stayed silent, staring down at her plate as if my humiliation was too uncomfortable to witness. To them, my worth was nothing more than a transaction waiting to happen. A ring, a wedding dress, a last name that was not mine. I felt my cheeks burn with shame, but I forced myself to sit there, to endure it, to let their poison settle into my bones so I would never, ever forget how it felt. That night, I cried into my pillow until my eyes were swollen shut. Not because I believed their words, but because it shattered my heart to know that my own blood, my own family, did not believe in me. But as I lay there in the darkness, something extraordinary happened. Their cruelty did not break me. It forged me. I made a decision that would change everything. If they thought I could not do it without a man, then I would do it without anyone's help at all. The next morning, I woke up with fire in my veins and steel in my spine. I worked 3 jobs while finishing my business degree. I was a barista at dawn, a retail assistant in the afternoon, and a freelance graphic designer until the early hours of morning. My hands were constantly stained with coffee and my eyes burned from staring at computer screens, but I did not stop. I lived in a cramped studio apartment where the heater rattled louder than my own heartbeat. The walls were paper thin, and I could hear my neighbors arguing about money every single night. The irony was not lost on me. I was listening to other people fight about what I was desperately trying to build. I skipped vacations that I could not afford anyway. I declined dinner invitations because every dollar mattered. I missed birthdays and celebrations because my future was more important than their temporary happiness. Every single cent I earned went into 2 places: survival and investment. While my cousins were posting pictures of their expensive dinners and designer handbags on social media, I was studying market trends and reading business books until my vision blurred. While they were complaining about their boring jobs, I was building something they could not even imagine. The loneliness was suffocating. There were nights when I questioned everything, when the weight of their words pressed down on my chest like concrete blocks, when I wondered if they were right, if I was fooling myself, if I was destined to fail. But then I would remember that dinner table. I would remember their laughter. I would remember my mother's silence. And the fire would ignite again. At 27, I launched my first company. It was a small e-commerce business selling handcrafted home goods. Nothing glamorous or revolutionary, just beautiful pieces that I sourced from local artisans and sold online. But it was mine. Every sale, every customer review, every late-night packaging orders. It was all mine. The first month, I made $300 in profit. My family would have laughed at such a pathetic amount. But to me, it was proof that I could do this, that their predictions about my failure were wrong. The business taught me the brutal, beautiful language of entrepreneurship. I learned about profit margins and customer acquisition costs. I discovered the difference between revenue and actual profit. I understood what it meant to hustle for every single dollar. Most importantly, I learned that success is not just about the money. It is about the confidence that comes from proving to yourself that you can survive anything. By 30, I had scaled my operation and moved into technology investments. I sold my home goods company for 6 figures and used every penny to fund my next venture. This time, I was not just selling products. I was investing in ideas, in startups that needed capital to grow, in brilliant minds that reminded me of my younger self. I became the person I had needed when I was starting out. My portfolio grew slowly at first, then with terrifying speed. One successful investment led to another. Word spread in the business community about the young woman who had an eye for spotting winners. Entrepreneurs began seeking me out, begging for my backing. The scared girl who once cried into her pillow was now making million-dollar decisions with steady hands and an unshakable mind. By 35, I was signing papers for my third company. This one was different. This one was personal. I founded a mentorship platform connecting young women with successful female entrepreneurs. I wanted to be the voice that I never had, the support system that my family refused to provide. The company exploded. Within 18 months, we had over 50,000 users and partnerships with major corporations. The revenue was staggering, but more important than the money was the impact. I was reading testimonials from women who had started their own businesses because of the confidence they gained through our platform. I was changing lives the same way mine had been changed, through the power of believing in yourself when no one else will. The fortune came slowly, then all at once. Years of careful investments, strategic partnerships, and relentless work had compounded into something I could barely comprehend. My net worth had climbed into the 8 figures, then beyond. I owned properties in 3 different states. I had investment accounts that generated more passive income in a month than most people made in a year. I had built something that would last long after I was gone. But none of that mattered as much as what happened next. Last Christmas, I made a decision that had been building in my heart for years. It was time to face them again. I pulled up to my childhood home. Not in the rusty hand-me-down Toyota that they had once mocked me for driving, but in a gleaming black Range Rover. The leather seats smelled like success, and the engine purred with quiet confidence. I sat in that car for a full 5 minutes, my hands gripping the steering wheel, preparing myself for what was about to happen. When I walked through the front door, the conversation stopped. I was wearing confidence like the finest silk. My posture was straight, my smile was genuine, and my eyes held the kind of peace that only comes from knowing exactly who you are and what you are worth. The same family members who had dismissed me were all there. Uncle Marcus, now grayer and softer around the middle. Cousins Rebecca and James, looking somehow smaller than I remembered. My Aunt Patricia, her face tight with barely concealed curiosity. And my mother. My mother looked at me with something I had never seen before. Was it pride? Regret? I could not tell. And I realized I did not care anymore. We sat down to dinner, and the tension was electric. Uncle Marcus cleared his throat and raised his eyebrows with that same condescending expression he had perfected years ago. So Nora seeing anyone special these days? The question hung in the air like smoke. Everyone was watching me, waiting for my answer, waiting to see if I had finally found a man to validate my existence, waiting to confirm that they had been right all along. I smiled, not the nervous, desperate smile of my younger self, but the calm, satisfied smile of someone who had won a game they did not even know they were playing. Actually, yes. I am seeing someone very special. I am seeing a lot of zeros in my bank account. The silence that followed was sweeter than any dessert I had ever tasted. You could have heard a pin drop. Uncle Marcus' wine glass froze halfway to his lips. Rebecca's mouth fell open in a way that was decidedly unflattering. James shifted uncomfortably in his chair as if he had been caught stealing. But I was not finished. You see, Uncle Marcus, you were absolutely right about one thing. I could not have done this as the woman you knew 8 years ago. That woman was too concerned with your approval, too desperate to fit into the tiny box you had built for her. I paused, letting my words sink in. But the woman I am now, she does not need anyone's permission to succeed. She certainly does not need a man to validate her worth. And she definitely does not need family members who bet against her. The room was so quiet I could hear the grandfather clock ticking in the hallway. How much? Rebecca whispered, as if saying it too loud would make it disappear. I smiled again. More than all of your net worths combined. Significantly more. It was not a boast. It was simply the truth. Over the following weeks, everything changed. The same cousins who had rolled their eyes at my ambitions were suddenly calling me for business advice. Rebecca wanted to know how to invest her savings. James asked if I would mentor him in starting his own company. Uncle Marcus, the man who had declared I would never make it alone, began bragging about me at his country club. Apparently, having a millionaire niece was quite the conversation starter on the golf course. My Aunt Patricia started introducing me to her friends as my successful entrepreneur niece. The same woman who had nodded along with my humiliation was now basking in reflected glory. But the most complicated relationship was with my mother. She never explicitly apologized for her silence that night 8 years ago. Instead, she began calling me more frequently. She would ask about my businesses, my investments, my plans for the future. She would brag to her friends about my achievements, as if she had always been my biggest supporter. Part of me wanted to confront her about that dinner table betrayal. Part of me wanted to demand an explanation for why she had abandoned me when I needed her most. But I realized something profound. I no longer needed her apology to heal. The success I had built was not about them anymore. It had started as revenge, as a way to prove them wrong, but it had evolved into something much more powerful. It had become proof to myself that I was enough, that I had always been enough. Today, my investment portfolio is worth more than I ever imagined possible. I own a company that has helped thousands of women start their own businesses. I have properties that generate passive income while I sleep. I have investment accounts that grow faster than I can spend the returns. But more importantly, I have something that money cannot buy. The unshakable knowledge that I created this life with my own 2 hands, my own brilliant mind, and my own relentless determination. I did not need a man to support me. I did not need my family's approval. I did not need anyone's permission to become extraordinary. I look back at that 22-year-old girl crying into her pillow, and my heart breaks for her pain. But I am also grateful for that moment because it was the catalyst that transformed everything. Their cruelty became my fuel. Their dismissal became my motivation. Their laughter became the soundtrack to my revenge. But here is the truth that took me years to understand. I did not build this fortune for their approval. I built it to prove something to that scared, heartbroken girl who thought she was worthless without someone else's validation. I built it to show her that she was always enough, exactly as she was. And she always will be. The little girl who was told she would never make it alone grew up to become a woman who did not just make it. She conquered. Every investment that succeeded was a middle finger to their predictions. Every company I launched was proof that their limitations were not mine. Every zero in my bank account was evidence that their vision for my life was pathetically small. I am not sharing this story to gloat or to seek sympathy. I am sharing it because somewhere out there is another young woman sitting at a dinner table, being told she is not enough. Being told she needs someone else to complete her. Being told her dreams are too big, too unrealistic, too ambitious for someone like her. I want that woman to know what I wish someone had told me 8 years ago. They are wrong about you. Their limitations are not your limitations. Their fears are not your fears. Their small dreams are not your dreams. You do not need anyone's permission to become extraordinary. You do not need anyone's approval to chase your biggest, most audacious goals. You do not need anyone's validation to know that you are already complete, exactly as you are. The fortune I built was not just measured in dollars. It was measured in confidence, in independence, in the absolute certainty that I can handle whatever life throws at me. Because I already survived the worst thing that could happen. I survived being told I was nothing by the people who were supposed to love me unconditionally. And if I could survive that, I could survive anything. If my story resonates with you, if it gives you even a fraction of the strength you need to chase your own dreams, then every sleepless night was worth it. Every sacrifice was meaningful. Every moment of doubt was justified by this moment of connection. You are enough. You have always been enough. And you will always be enough. Now go out there and prove it to yourself. The world is waiting for what only you can create. If this story inspired you to chase your own dreams and build the life you deserve, please subscribe to our channel for more stories of triumph, transformation, and the incredible power of believing in yourself. Hit that subscribe button and join our community of dreamers who refuse to let anyone else define their worth.